If you want to. You say when.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee. It is October the 15th, 2025. May I please get a roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Here.
Mr. Capel,
Abstain.
On the roll.
You're here? Oh, roll call. I was reading ahead. I'm here. Doing the minutes.
physically.
I was reading the minutes.
Mr. Ayer. Yes. Mr. Ghost,
Here.
Mr. Grumney,
Here.
Mr. Martin,
Here.
Mrs. Cooper. Here. 7 yeas, we have a quorum.
All right, great. Thank you. We have minutes from our September 17th, 2025 meeting. Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, thank you very much. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper. Yes. Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Ayer. Yes. Mr. Capel.
Now I abstain.
6 yeas, minutes pass.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move right into new and unfinished business, and it looks like we have the 2024 GAAP financial statements to discuss.
Yes, thank you. I did not include the entire 94-page packet in your Finance Committee packet. You're welcome. I did include about 20 pages. It's the first few pages. The full document is on OneDrive, so please feel free to take a look at it if you'd like. I also have a hard copy here I can pass around later if you'd like to look at it. But the most important information is in those first pages that you have there in your Finance Committee packet. So these were prepared by Julian and Grube, and this is for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024. And the first few pages that are included in your packet include the management discussion and analysis and the basic financial statements. The rest of the financial packet includes things such as fund financial statements, notes to the financial statements, and other required supplementary information. Just to note, this is not audited. These are unaudited financial statements. A different accounting firm will audit them, our IPA, in 2026 along with 2025. So since we're on a 2-year audit cycle, these will not get audited until 2026. So just a heads up on that. On page 2, I just want to show you a few highlights. I'd highlight a few things for you. So this is a letter to the mayor and the members of city council. This is what it looks like here. This page here, letter.
Page 9 of the packet. Right?
Page 9 in your packet. Sorry about that. It's page 2 in my actual packet. But page 9 in your packet has a letter to the mayor and city council members, and it just explains that provides some basic information as to what is included in this report and why it's included. Following that, we have the management discussion and analysis, which is the next several pages. And this is a very good thing to read if you have some time in the next few weeks, just to give you some information about the city and the finances of the city and how they compare to prior years. And it puts financials in a different way that we wouldn't normally look at on a daily basis. So it's good to look at to get a broader scope of the financial picture. Some key financial highlights that I wanted to review. Total net position of the city increased about $6 million. And this is all compared to 2023. The net increase in the general fund balance was about 1.85 million, which is 24.15% over 2023. And the net position for business type activities, such as our sewer enterprise account, increased about 2.4 million. So you can see there's lots of growth. All of you are aware of this. So these financial statements show the same picture. So just as a bit of an education, what is the difference between GAAP financials and what we were doing previously? What we were doing previously was called an OCBOA form of financial statements, other cash basis of accounting. And, okay, that's okay. So when it comes to GAAP, GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, and GAAP uses the accrual basis of accounting, which is similar to how most private sector companies run their financial statements. Cash basis accounting records money transactions when the cash is actually spent versus when it is earned or expenses are realized. And that's what we do for accrual or GAAP accounting. Also, in the GAAP basis accounting, we have to capitalize our assets and depreciate them as well. So there's a lot more that is involved in preparing these financial statements as opposed to what we were doing previously. As a result of the change in financial principle or accounting principle, there is a restatement that typically has to be done. And this is pretty common anytime there's a change in accounting principle, which is what this is. And you can see it'll be on the bottom of page, it's page 9 on mine. So it's probably page 19 or 18. Let's see, it's page 9, I'm sorry, page 16 in your finance committee packet. Change in net position at the bottom of that page, almost at the very bottom, it's 3 lines from the bottom where it says restatement, change in accounting principle, and there are some changes there. That's due to the accruals that I mentioned earlier. So there has to be a restatement of certain figures so that we can compare apples to apples and put things all on the same plane. Happy to go into more details if you want. Just wanted to give you a little overview of what the differences are. So,
Ms. Dunn, can you just in layman's terms, when we say the total net position of the city increased by $6 million, is that total net revenue what does that mean?
in that position,
Yeah.
Let's see where I found that.
It's on page 10 of the in the second arrow. Total net
Yes.
position. Yeah.
Net position. So I have to look and see exactly what they mean by net position,
Okay.
so I can get an answer.
Okay.
you,
I just didn't know. Yeah. I mean, obviously that sounds good. I mean, money and it's increasing, so
Yeah.
that's better than the other way around. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Generally speaking, I believe it's just net cash balance or asset value,
Okay.
but I can get a better.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I was
explanation
just
for you.
curious. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. So, all right, thank you.
There is one brief comment about on packet page 15, the last paragraph there, it says a portion of the city's net position, 4.7 million, represents resources that are subject to external restriction on how they may be used.
That would be like our investments and things like that.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, like non-liquid assets.
Or they could be referring to certain grants and funds that come from the state that have to be used for a restricted purpose versus general fund revenue, which is typically income tax, which is non-restricted. You can use it for anything. But some funds are restricted.
We've got the formula. It's assets plus deferred outflow of resources minus liabilities.
Okay.
It's like
Thank you.
all of our assets are our balances minus what we owe to people.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I think it's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
It's
So
a
in other
favor-
words, that's
It's a favorable number.
Yeah, right. It's on the plus side. So very good. Thank you, Mayor.
And if you think, I mean, okay, in the past, we really were focused on cash accounting and like what do our balances look like year over year. I think where we shift, like finance committee shifts their mindset is, okay, are we investing in assets that extend beyond their depreciation schedule? Because then that's where we really, ultimately, like if you keep a truck that depreciates in 5 years, if you keep it for 7, it's like 2 years accounting wise, we've kept it for free. Or if we sell it, then it's kind of like cash positive. That's where I think this net position number is
Where's it coming
going to
from?
be helpful for us to gauge year over year.
Mhm.
Are our investments as wise as we think they are?
Right. Okay. Very good. All right. Does that conclude the remarks on GAAP accounting?
That is all I had prepared to discuss.
Okay. Any other questions on the financial statements or the highlight summary? Right. Very good. Thank you for that. Looks like we go to round 2 of the budget draft, I
Yes.
think.
Mhm.
Okay, so the budget draft, tonight we're gonna primarily discuss capital items. I will discuss some general fund items and non-general fund items over on a high level, but we're gonna talk a lot about capital items tonight. Starting on packet page 26. All right, so some of the things that changed from the last time we met on September 17th. I have a new format of the revenue page. So that's on page 27. So this revenue, well, sorry, let me back up. back on page 26, we have the consolidated budget overview. And every fund is listed there on the left-hand side, from the general fund at the top all the way down to our agency funds, which are the mayor's court and the pass-through fund. I did add a few new funds because you can see all those zeros in the middle of the page. I've added 2 new TIF funds based on the TIFs that were passed this year, and also a special revenue and a mayor's court special project fund. So I do expect to see some activity. I'm not sure if we'll see activity in all of those in 2026, but in the future we will. So that's our general overview.
Sorry, would anything go in the anticipated, I mean, I know we're not sure, but so are we just leaving that out? It's gravy if we get anything in 2026 for that?
It is for now, but I still have a few more months and weeks to go through the budget, so
Okay.
I may refine this a little bit more before it's passed.
Gotcha.
Mhm. Okay, packet page 27, which is the estimated revenues. This is where I reformatted it a little bit so that it's a little bit easier to view. At least I think it is a little bit easier. So what's changed from last month when we discussed this, I scrubbed the revenues on the general fund to make them a little more close to what I think we'll see. I increased the income tax up to 6.4 million. I had it at 6.2 last month. I moved the $500,000 land and water conservation fund for J.R. Smith Park. I moved that from the general fund into the Parks and Rec fund. So that's out of the general fund now because it will be paid from the Parks and Rec fund. So I thought it was more appropriate to move it there. Also, fines, licenses, and permits, that we increased by about 150,000. And primarily that's due to increase in anticipated stormwater revenue fees. And that was based on discussion that Carla and Daryl have had. So that's included. And also I transferred a balance from the water fund. As you know, we no longer have a water utility, but we had about 41,000 sitting in the water fund. And I'm not certain. I know I can move that into the general fund. I'm just not certain if I need council action to approve that. So I have that listed in here in the 2026 potential move. So there's a difference there in the general fund. As far as the expenses go, if we want to turn to packet page 28, this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of all the expenses that we're going to have in 2026. Some changes that I went through since the last iteration. We allocated portions of mayor's court wages and benefits for our 3, potentially 4 mayor's court employees into the mayor's court department, still in the general fund out of the police department, just so that we can more closely track and accurately track what expenses are going into that activity.
Yeah, so maybe just a little bit more about that. I think in the last version, we showed 100% of it in the mayor's court. We decided that a portion of their time is spent with the police department. So that's the change. A portion of it went back to the police department.
Thank you. Also in the police department, we added an officer to bring the total number of officers, patrol officers, to 10 from 9. And in planning and zoning, we added a position for an engineering inspector, roughly 100,000 with wages and benefits. And also the transfers out to support the other activities that we'll have. That's increased by about 1.3 million. 1.3 million going all to capital. About 10,000 is going to debt service to cover a little bit of debt service that we have left on some general obligation debt.
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit more on that inspector position. We talked about it at the last meeting. These are fees that we currently receive from development activities where we currently contract out to a source to do that. So we're basically recapturing some of those funds and using them to build that capacity in-house. So again, we don't anticipate this as a net increase. This is kind of a wash at the end of the day, but it brings that staff person to us as opposed to, again, paying it out to a contractor.
We're also going to look for other ways to, charge fees in a way that is commensurate with other communities that are doing the same thing.
We definitely talked a lot about that at the last meeting, and that is the other permit position that we talked about as well. So there's a permit position and an inspection position. The fees will be adjusted accordingly. Yes, they'll fund these positions.
Thank you.
The other changes that have happened since the last iteration, I increased the impact fee revenues to reflect large developments. I worked with Alex to get a more accurate number on what he expects to receive on the impact fees. And if you wanted to look at those, they're on page, on the revenue page, which is packet page 27. Sorry to jump around, but impact fees for police, I have at 290,000. For municipal, 833,000. Roads, 683,000. And Parks and Rec, 346,000. Also, the last assumption that I wanted to call to your attention is a $250K grant from OPWC for street projects, hoping that we qualify for that this year. And the last thing for budget that I have planned to discuss is capital projects. And the capital projects are all listed on packet page 36. So on packet page 36, we have police items at the top, administration items under there, street and services items, parks and rec, cemetery and sewer. So all the different departments are represented here. So going through these from the top, the police, we're requesting an unmarked car for 30,000, cameras on the square on the impound lot for 30,000, some additional body cams and some radios, total of about $90,000 for the police department. In the administration section, we've got some updates for City Hall for the elevator, other improvements at City Hall, fiber backbone, and also some RRFBs or not RRFBs, but school zone flashing lights there. In the services department, we have got a lot of items here. I don't have a lot of details, but I know that Ms. Odebrowski does. So I know she's here to talk about those. Parks and Rec, I'll just skip over services for now. Parks and Rec, we've got the J.R. Smith Park loan of $3.5 million. The loan's actually going to be about 2.5. The other million we have to be spent from funds on hand and also that grant that we got from ODNR. In cemetery, we've got 2 projects slated, a restoration project and a niche wall install. All of that will be covered by the funds we receive from the Drugan Trust. And then in sewer, we've got the big one there for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. We expect to pay about $12.5 million next year based on what the contractor has estimated. Also, we have some Little Walnut Creek Interceptor phasing. It's about $1.3 million, and all of this will be recouped via future assessments on properties. But we have to show some money in there going out in 2026 because there will be lots of work done on that next year. We also have a few other sewer account projects. There's a CIPP lining, some storm improvements, and some replacement money in there as well. So I skipped over the big section, the purple one in the middle there. So I'm hoping that we can get some discussion from Ms. Odebrowski on these. Okay.
Good evening, Finance Committee. Just going through the list for the Services Committee and the capital items listed here. The first 3 are typically streets projects. So those are going to be projects that are related to RRFBs. So those rectangular rapid flashing beacons, the push button flash icons that you can utilize to cross the street. Any sort of road restoration project, so milling, paving, so that would be that $900,000 range. Vernon Street reconstruction, this is an item that we talked about in detail at the Services Committee, but essentially looking to do some more in-depth repairs for the section to the south of Granville Street to Columbus Street, and some drainage improvements there. And then some TIF funds were identified to potentially do some improvements at the North Miller Road turn lane on Cherry Street. That's all going to be looked at from a design perspective to see, you know, what exactly we could do to make some improvements at that intersection. Again, that was another item that we spoke about in detail at the Services Committee.
So maybe if I could jump in there. So the first two, you'll note there's a little code on the left-hand side, the street improvement program. So collectively about $1 million. That's where we've been the last couple of years. And as Dana had indicated, you know, we are going to be seeking some assistance from OPWC, and we're, you know, estimating $250K from them of this $1 million project. I was just going to add, we do have next to the North Miller Road turn lane a TIF. I don't think we have sufficient revenues in the TIF at the moment to do that, but we are just trying to show this as a capital project that we're going to be working on. When we get adequate TIF revenues to be able to do that, you know, we'll be positioned to be able to proceed with that. So just, yeah, a little more clarification on kind of how that will work.
Yep, absolutely. The East Granville widening street project, you see 800,000 there, and that's just an estimate of how much we think we'll spend next year. That would include some design fees, but also whether or not there could potentially be some utility relocation fees. All of that is going to be looked at throughout 2026. The Sandals Trail, Ohio to Erie Trail easement, 25,000. That's a trail connection easement for Duncan Oil, so just to the south of Vernon Street. So we'll be looking to potentially get that easement to make an additional connection next year. The sidewalk upgrades at the city facilities, I've listed the MSC, the Municipal Service Center, Public Works Center, Police, Lions Building, Parks. So these are the city-owned facilities. We'll be looking at improvements to sidewalk panels, but also making sure that we are meeting ADA requirements at these locations. We budgeted $100,000. It doesn't mean that we'll be able to do necessarily everything that needs to be done, but it's a good start, and we'll prioritize it, and we'll be able to give you an update on how much of how many improvements we're able to make for city-owned facilities. The East Granville Street storm lining, I believe Jake was here and mentioned that there are some storm improvements needed ahead of the East Granville widening project in 2027. So next year, we'd like to use that SW, which is stormwater account money, to look at utilizing some technologies to clear the storm sewer pipe. I have a note there for encrustation. So essentially we need to put something through it to try and open up that sewer pipe because it has a lot of debris around the outside. Also under the stormwater account, the annual MS4 stormwater budget. If you remember earlier this year, we went into contract with Delaware County Soil and Water Conservation District in order to provide services for, I believe it was $175,000. The bulk of that contract was for the construction inspection on the multiple development sites that we have. Essentially, that is money that we collect from the developers through a fee process and deposit in order to get these items inspected. So the reason it has that stormwater account is because we are collecting the funds from developers in order to provide these services. So it also keeps us compliant with this MS4 requirement that the city has. Under signal modernization, in our traffic working group, we've spoken at length about doing some modernization of all of the signals across the city. But we are interested in utilizing some fiber communications, better sync up the signals, and just improve overall the capacity. We've gone over the cost estimates in that working group at length, and they're are different options. I have 150,000 here in order to start the process of trying to phase what those modernizations could be. So this is more of like a design study phase in order to do something more comprehensive. In the future, so not next year, we may be looking at up to a $2 million investment in doing this modernization over the years. And then it looks like the next items are all capital equipment items for services.
Yeah, those are all replacement of certain items and machinery, vehicles that the service department utilizes. So just some replacing of items there. And there's a final grant at the bottom.
Yeah, the signal repairs and push buttons on the square. This is an item, we put grant next to it because it would be a huge benefit in order to get push buttons and update the signals on the square so that people can utilize it to cross the road. I've got it estimated just under $200,000 to do that. We're going to look for grant funding in order to see if we can get that done sooner. If we are unable to secure grant funding, it is likely that we'll continue to keep it in a capital plan, but we may push it out and try and synchronize it with that signal modernization effort that we'll have over the next few years. But if we're able to get some improvements sooner through grant funding, we'll try.
Did that come out of the Safer Streets for All group?
That was definitely one of the items that was identified as a priority for the improvements that are needed around the square. Yeah, the push buttons were identified. Mid-block crossings as well in certain locations were being looked at in that study. At services, the next services meeting, I'll be giving a summary of the Safe Streets for All recommendations, since we have just received the final report and had our final working group meeting.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I will say that we'll go through the services committee, but this is one that will require city council approval or adoption of the plan. So you will see it. Every member of the council will see that at some point here soon.
Thanks. Can I ask you something? When the signal repairs around the square, if there's more push buttons at the corners of the square, I'm assuming, does that make the lights change more frequently?
Yeah, if you're utilizing the push button, it can affect the timing, but that's part of, being able to modernize and sync it up so that it can get back on the correct cycle. But being able to use the push buttons, yeah, it would be something we'd have to look at very closely and keep an eye on in order to make sure we can program it correctly.
Because right now, in all honesty, from someone who walks the square
Mhm.
frequently, I don't think there's a problem with the pattern. I think it works nicely. I think if it was sped up and you've got semis that have to start and stop and start and stop, I think that would be an issue. But as of right now, I don't think it's an issue.
Appreciate the feedback.
There's we've done some data collection on traffic that we're analyzing. And will be over the next couple of months, where we did camera tests and things like that.
Yep, we collected some near miss data from the locations around the square and also at Miller Street and Cherry, just in order to we can get vehicle counts from it as well. But yeah, the purpose was to take a close look at not just the vehicles that are moving through, but also the pedestrians as well.
It's very predictable, but like by definition, it's dumb. I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, they aren't taking into account real traffic patterns. So if you pull out the Vernon Street and you're trying to turn left on Cherry and there's nobody coming, you're going to sit there for a minute.
Do walk and don't walk signs come on if nobody pushes a button?
Right now, yes.
No, I meant it with the new system you're talking about. If nobody pushes the walk button, does the walk light come on?
Yeah, there will still be a cycle for it, yes.
Cause the ones out at 37 do not.
No, you have to push the button.
You have to push the button to get a walk signal to cross Route 3.
Ones on Cherry
And
and
3 and 37, yeah, Cherry and 37 and 3.
By CVS.
If nobody pushes that button, the walk signal does not
it
come on.
never comes on.
No.
Mm-mm.
Even
And it's the same way down there by the UDF.
Typically, there's a cycle that it comes on at, but it's something that we can take a look at.
That we can program.
I mean, I've had people ask before, how long do you have to wait on this thing to change? So it'd be good to know that it still cycles for us older folks.
Yep, and certainly that's one of the benefits to having the push button. You can kind of accelerate when the next cycle could be otherwise.
Oh, no, I
People that have it there, that
just
you're able
see
to press.
people standing there waiting and waiting and waiting, and they don't realize if they haven't pushed the button, it's not gonna come on.
Sure.
One of the lights though that would need attention is 61 and 3 at the hub carryout. That light, if there's cars that are wanting to turn left onto 3, that's an issue. And coming into Sunbury, if they're wanting to turn left, that's an issue.
But that light is ODOT's responsibility. It's not in Ohio, in Sunbury.
But it's definitely been one that we've talked about
Yeah.
for potential improvements in the future.
Right. Yeah, that talk's been going on for years.
Yeah, long time.
Demand action.
We'll leave the light and add a lane.
Mhm.
So maybe to kind of close this conversation, so what you see on the capital plan is already incorporated into the budget document that the Dana talked through. So if you feel like as a council, there's something in here that maybe isn't what you want to see in the final budget, obviously we'll have the readings at the council level, but please advise prior to that. The other thing I would add is that so as Carla was speaking through the or I think Dana was speaking through the Little Walnut Creek Interceptor, these items that are on here, these are not the design costs. These are basically right-of-way acquisition, utility movements. The Little Walnut Creek Phase 2A is actually the construction cost to basically do that, to get that project started. But there are design fees already accounted for elsewhere in the budget. That's one of those items that we increased from last year's number to this year's number to make sure that we were accounting for the design component as well. So
Yeah, we're already paying for it in some cases.
we are, exactly. Yeah, and this notion of a future assessment, again, whether that is the model we use for the reimbursement, I think the point that Dana's trying to make is that those are expenses that we will be able to recapture at some point, but there's a cash outlay upfront.
I have one question about this, service vehicles and the unmarked police car. So I know we have a leasing program for our new police cars. And I know service vehicles take more of a beating, but was there any thoughts or is there any thoughts about possibly doing the same thing for service vehicles, trucks, and the unmarked police car as well?
That was discussed when Tim Duffy, I think his name was, when he came to do the presentation last year. We did discuss that opportunity, and he mentioned that it would be possible, but we hadn't really investigated it any further.
I'm just curious, because I don't know if we run into the same maintenance problems that we have with police vehicles as we do, and what's the return on it as far as money spent on servicing and all that stuff. So
Yeah, maybe adding one other point to that though, is that Jake did look at leasing as an option for the larger trucks last year. But was actually able to secure a vehicle. So I think that's part of the challenge with the police department, is you're so difficult securing the vehicle yourself in order to be able to upfit it and do whatever you need to do. So he did look into that option, and I think ultimately determined, well, one, he was able to get a vehicle, so he didn't go all the way to the end of it. And I think he was thinking it might have been a little bit of a wash, and again, wasn't a complete analysis, but there was some attempt to maybe look at that and see if that might be the future for the service department as well.
okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions on?
2 points. One on impact fees. Really proud of this team and our entire team for taking a look at impact fees really seriously. I mean, through a hard time through the pandemic, made a lot of really hard decisions, 3 or 4 years ago, trying to forecast this out. Obviously, now that we're seeing the revenues coming in, I mean, this is like a
It's paying off.
in a huge way.
Mhm.
$2.1 million forecasted next year. That's, I mean, a massive chunk of our revenue.
Mhm.
I mean, it's great foresight for all those that were here, for those who weren't here and are just reaping the benefits. I'm happy for you as well. Second of all, I know our time is tight to look at this J.R. Smith $2.5 million bond effort. There's a lot of activity. We've got a lot of balls in the air down here with East Granville Street, the Ohio to Erie Trail, this corner over here, traffic signals, everything. I just encourage staff rapidly to look at, because $2.5 million is the right number, because if you want to fix it all, like you got one shot to do it. And if you want to take out 3 million versus 2.5, the more you finance, typically the rate is lower.
Yep.
And I'm not encouraging you to go out and spend what you don't need. That's not what I'm saying, but it's going to be so much harder to do. If we don't get it right this time, it's never going to be done right. I'm talking about Lions building, this curve that every truck runs into, the Statue of Liberty thing, whatever you have to do to like re-engineer that corner and make it safer and more walkable and move more traffic more effectively. Like now's the time to do it. So if 2.5 is the number for J.R. Smith, it is, but please take a hard look at that in really quick order. I'm sorry I wasn't here during last month's meeting to talk about this.
Well, you all are gonna think I'm crazy, but speaking of the J.R. Smith Park, you know, all these new housing developments, a lot of them have splash pads.
Which ones?
The new complexes that are going up out here off of 36, 37, a lot of these newer developments, they include splash pads and pickleball courts and a walking trail around them. And I
Where
think,
is that though, Mom? I don't know where you're talking about.
well, some of these, the developments that are newly coming to our area that have been approved, I think the one that's off of, I want to say near White Castle over there. And I think, I don't know if the DR Horton, I don't know what they're going to have, but it seems like a lot of the newer developments include a lot of these items for their residents. My point is, a splash pad, you are aiming towards one group of people. Whereas if it was a pool, and maybe if we want to cut, I don't know if the splash pad's a great idea, but a pool would help everybody. A splash pad, you're aiming towards younger people. And I'm going to say from maybe 12 and under. And I know people like it if they babysit their grandkids, they'd like to take them over there, and the people with younger kids will be great. But you're leaving out a demographic from like 18 and under, which could provide jobs and provide somewhere for that group to go as well. I just think a splash pad narrows your who you're going after to use it. And it uses a lot of water.
Uses a lot more money to buy a pool. I mean,
What would it pay?
Like, no,
it never would. It would never do that. And we know that. It would be, I mean, you're talking about $10 million in a pool, not including the infrastructure. It doesn't matter how many part-time jobs you're offering to high school kids. It will never pay for itself. You have to, like, to get a pool, you're talking about a levy. You're talking about a bond effort. I'm looking over at staff. I mean, back me up on this. I mean, that's a huge investment. Not to mention, and the last thing I'll say about this, I don't know what developments you're talking about that have splash pads, but I will say this. The Parks Committee probably would be the best to talk to about this. And if you go back to 2018, when the Parks Master Plan came out, that was like when I was first on council.
We talked about this last month because I said I think that's when we first met as I came. It was years and years and years
Right.
ago.
I mean, this is a plan that's been in place for 7 years and refined over time. But it's like every time we've gone back out to the public, it's like, yes. I think to like do the bait and switch and not do it now would be that would be very hard to communicate, I think.
and in a historical sense, back when I was village administrator, we looked at bringing a pool to Sunbury. And the insurance was in itself was just outrageous because we would have to take on the liability of somebody drowning in that pool, somebody getting hurt bad when they jumped off the diving board and hit their face on the bottom of the pool, things like that. The liability insurance was just outstanding. It was amazing how expensive it would have been. And so now that we're bigger and we have more money, it might be possible. But the splash pad idea is, I think, more practical for where we are.
And I also think, I agree with you that I would like a pool in Sunbury.
Me too.
I think a lot of us agree with that, and I think that is where we're gonna voice that is with the joint recreation district.
Right.
At least voicing our opinions as residents, if that's what you wanna see, that will be the place to say it, because that's what they're doing, that's what they will be doing here shortly, is going out to the public and saying, what are you willing to pay for? Cause we're gonna have to pay for that, whatever, if it's gonna go on a levy likely, then that'll be the time, I think, to say what you really want. Then if you want a community center and a pool and you like over there, and then that's gonna be the time to say it, and then they'll come back with, this is how much it'll cost, and then we'll go vote for it.
Well, like you think like Westerville, Delaware, those are the two communities that come to mind that have pools and have a pretty robust system, and they're really nice. I mean, their taxes literally are twice as high as the city of Sunbury.
Or more in
yeah.
Westerville.
Yeah, Delaware 1.85, they failed 2 levies, they can't pave their roads. Westerville is 2.25%, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and that large portion of it goes
To their rec.
directly to Parks and Rec. They've passed several bond levies over the past 25,
And how
30
many more
years.
people are paying that?
I mean, 35, 40,000 people.
Paying double what we're paying.
Right.
Plus fees for programs you enter and
Yeah.
participate in as well. On top.
I feel really strongly that this is a good like crawl in terms of the crawl, walk, run approach.
Yeah.
You know, it's like doing everything we possibly can without raising taxes and without, doing something that I think would maybe jeopardize the things like paving roads and the blocking and tackling aspects of government. I think so.
Yeah, we'd explored and did a lot of research on this whole topic, Molly, over a long time. And there's a time and a place, I think, for a pool. Time's a little bit further out through the upcoming JRD planning, and the place is somewhere else.
Yeah, because we already have, there's also gonna be a pavilion and a walking path and.
Straight.
Looked at that option for J.R. Smith Park, it just didn't seem the right fit or the right place.
Parking.
And the splash pad seemed to be the right time and the right place for that. And I'll say this, in terms of the other demographic, I think we did a decent job of looking at that with regard to the basketball courts that we're gonna have there. We're gonna have the pickleball courts for the older folks primarily, but I think more
We
younger
can
people.
do more in the future, but I don't think we can do more at J.R. Smith, but I'm right with you. I agree with you completely that we need more for that demographic.
It'll leave some green space down there too for expansion or something different in the future too, so.
Yeah.
My input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think we can jump then to the year-to-date comparison reports.
Yes. Page 37 of your packet, we have the year-to-date revenue report through September. We have fully collected all of our real estate property tax, our homestead rollback tax. We are over on our mayor's court collecting. We are over on our interest income, way over on miscellaneous reimbursements. I also want to point out, I created a few new accounts here under building permits. Of course, the stormwater fee revenue account I've created. And I've also created an engineering review fees account. And I moved some money from the building permits line into the engineering review fees because it was more appropriate there. And we'll start to collect engineering fees from engineers and collect them in this account for the future so that we can track that. And going to the engineering inspector, that'll help give us eyes on what we're seeing in that realm. Also, this is a minor item, but on the next page, page 38, I added a rental revenue account just so I could see how much we're pulling in for town hall rentals and rentals that we charge the public for. Okay.
Steph, can you go back? I think it's worth noting the interest income
Yes.
is on an awesome track. Area at 147%. And this note states that on track to exceed the budget by I think it says $75,000.
$375K.
That's amazing. So hopefully that continues on through the end of the year.
Yeah, hopefully we know that the Fed is, moving. They're starting to do some changes. So we'll see.
We've done one cut recently. And my personal opinion is I expect that to ramp up a little bit more next year.
Yeah.
I think they initially forecasted we were gonna have 6 cuts this year. I think we had one.
One.
Right.
Yeah. I think we'll probably see 2 or 3 next year,
Yeah.
pending any global issues that are totally out of our control.
Right.
So somewhat related to that point, I will say though, that when we talked to the city's financial advisor about the loan for the J.R. Smith Park, one of the things they are watching also though are these future cuts, and that would help us on that side in terms of the borrowing. So it cuts a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps you in one way and hurts you another way. So we try to capitalize as best we can.
I mean, the more liquid assets that we have to invest, the higher chance that we're gonna get good returns, regardless of the rate.
Mhm.
Yeah. As for the rest of the revenues, there's not much to impact fees. You can see that they're all exceeding what we've budgeted. Primarily all due to large developments that are paying those impact fees. So that about does it for the revenues. Moving on to the expenses, starts on page 41 of your packet. It's all the same typical items that we've talked about every month. So I won't bore you to death, but I will just point out the yellow highlights there. That's where we have spent more than 10% of the budget. So those are highlighted for you to see. Again, really nothing that sticks out that needs to be drawn to your attention. So I will move to the complete check report and the year-to-date. I'll skip over the year-to-date fund report, but you can see where we sit fund-wise as of September. And then on page 47, we have the complete check report. So you can look at all the checks and ACHs that we have made in the month of September. We had a couple large payments to CT Consultants, aka Verdantis. Of course, we know what those are. And I don't see anything major else to draw your attention to there. So I'll briefly talk about income tax. So moving back to the first page. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting out of line, Mr. Crumney.
No, you're keep it rolling. You're good to go. Any questions on topics discussed? Okay, we're good to go. You're good.
Thanks, book reconciliation and September check register. So looking at the year-to-date income tax on the first page there, continues to go up in every category. And we're collecting in total 16.4% more than we have 2024, which we thought we were doing good last year. Hey, we're doing even better this year. It's all good things. And where is bank balances on page 3. We have at the end of September, $22,038,932.71 accumulated in all of our bank accounts. Outstanding checks totaled just over 21,000, bringing our bank balance to a little over 22 million. Book balance is a little under that. We have a variance of 108. All of those have been identified, and I can provide details upon request if you like. That's all I have.
I had one thing on the income tax. Ms. Devon and I had spoke maybe a couple weeks ago through email about a mailer going out to residents, primarily on the new developments. Letting them know about, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I steal your thunder?
No, I just bought it. I wasn't even going to mention it, but
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, especially with like the DRK development. Rolling Hills, I mean, even, Price Ponds, you just don't want anyone to get caught off guard.
It'll be a mailer, similar to this stock of paper. It'll look like this. It'll be two-sided. And we'll have the address of the resident there. It'll be from Sunbury, so residents will see that it is city branded as well as Rita branded. So they should be able to identify that it's, I can pass it down.
Like the term was right. I mean, it's like, hey, this is friendly reminder, welcome to the neighborhood, but. you
Give
know,
them idea, like examples of what exactly you need to do to register.
We're protecting.
Tells them, hey, you got this income tax,
Like that.
you have to pay it, yeah. Here's how you do it.
This is awesome
I'm
because,
trying to get ahead of the
Yeah.
subpoena program. I think
You're right.
Ultimately. what
well,
we-
and I think it is a good, good effort, and probably our responsibility to inform residents that, hey, you are in a
Yeah.
reading district. So I think this is excellent.
Yeah.
And I think
you.
that, the last thing you want to do is be 18 months after living here, find out that you're 18 months behind on a payment. So,
Yeah, I think this is above and beyond
Yeah.
our statutory responsibility.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like on the taxpayer, they're supposed to know
right,
the
right.
rules, but
As
you're
we-
right. Like, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I think it is good.
Just those same lines. I do plan on putting a more robust web page out there whenever we do our revamp of our website so that it is a lot easier for residents to navigate to where they need to go to see what they need to know about tax.
So I just had a thought come across my mind, and that's never a good thing, but has the city ever considered about, like at the library, holding a Rita tax seminar, like a half hour, 1 hour, sign up and we can come and speak to you about why we do it, why it's important, what you need to do, or even a new resident, meeting at the library, say, okay, as a new resident, here's some things you might, you can publish that on the website or what have you. So it's just informal, informational type of sessions that the city could provide, maybe once or twice a year, just to give people some updates on what's going on in their community, especially I'm thinking new residents, kind of resources, parks, what's coming up, what are the plans, we're glad you moved to Sunbury, here's what to expect. type of thing.
I think that's a great idea. I could even couple it with maybe talk about some capital projects that are going to be coming out, just so people can see where we have our finances, where we're putting our money, what we're looking forward for.
Right,
It's a good idea.
and we get
Our
that.
newest council member should be there and whoever that is. Rite of passage. Anybody who's like on a second job interview. So I have to go to the library and explain.
Right, right. Yeah, we don't want to go down the tax advisor route, but, but definitely the informational route. I think, I think that sometimes just brings, community event that can bring people together and maybe you say there has to be so many people to sign up. So if you only have 3 people sign up, maybe say, hey, we're gonna maybe move till the spring till we get more people, whatever. You can put a minimum attendance requirement, but yeah,
It's a good idea.
yeah, thanks.
And some cupcakes.
The cupcakes are, what's it? That would draw them in, sure, so, cupcakes and beer, what a combo. What a combo.
We'll workshop that.
Yeah. Okay, so Ms. Steffen, anything else you'd like to add or anything else from staff before we?
I'm done.
Okay, how about council, any questions or any follow-ups before we dismiss here? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn then.
The motion.
Motion by the mayor.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayer. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Ayer,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Ghost,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
7